You log on to MultiVersus, you enjoy a couple of Rift matches, a couple of PvP matches, you know, do your dailies, but after you're done with everything, you start to wonder why you want to play in the first place. This is an experience that a lot of us players are going through right now. The question I ask you is, do you feel MultiVersus is getting a little bit boring? I received a comment from someone who doesn't really play the game that often. You can tell based off the comment. However, if a person that's new or a person that just got into the game feels like this, there must be some truth to it. The comment goes as follows: this game has a gacha mobile game pay to play energy. I don't understand how they are trying to get people to spend money on cosmetics and gym upgrades, but even if you do buy that, you still have a cooldown until more missions are available. It's just wanting people to log in and spend money. They don't care about anything else. Now with a comment like that, it's pretty obvious that the player doesn't really play the game that much. If you've actually followed the game, you'll notice that Player First Game has actually been doing a lot of things to make the player's experience better. However, I think they might be focusing on the wrong things, and I also think that they might be a little bit too cautious about it. We know that MultiVersus is a competitive fighting game. Any competitive game needs to have one mode in order for it to survive. Now, yes, MultiVersus has the Rift PvE mode, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. What I'm talking about now is ranked. There is no ranked mode because they're being cautious. They want to make sure things work properly before they add a ranked mode. However, in a competitive game, that's one of the most important factors. Now, you could argue, well, you can play normal matches and you can get better that way. It's a little bit difficult because the matchmaking is inconsistent. One moment you'll get someone who doesn't really know how to play the game that well. The next moment you'll get someone who's really sweaty. The next moment you'll get someone who just straight up spams. Like it's really inconsistent. You would expect to start with people that are like very low level and gradually only play with people that are matching your skill level. However, currently the normal mode is all over the place. When you factor in the 2v2 mode, you'll start to run into players who do cheap tactics like run 2 Shaggies or 2 banana guards, or you have someone spamming in the back while their teammate fights. Like, it's very cheesy and it's more of a for fun mode. It's not really a competitive mode. Again, in my personal opinion, when it's a competitive game, you want to get better, but you can't get better unless you play with people your skill level or above, which the game doesn't really offer right now. This means if you're someone that is competitive, you're someone that wants to get better, you really want to improve at your character, try a whole bunch of new things, you might find the game boring right now. You literally have nothing to strive for, and because the matches are so inconsistent, you don't really know what you need to improve on. The better you get at something, the harder it is to improve because you can't really see what you need to improve on as much as you can if you were a new player. Being someone that used to coach games professionally, this is something that really hurts the drive of a lot of competitive players. If there are no walls for you to hit, it is very difficult to find out what you need to improve on unless you go out of your way to do so. In my personal opinion, I think that ranked should have been dropped. Yes, there's problems, yes, there's issues, but we could have had a preseason, we could have had a season that didn't matter, and we could have really just tested it that way. That way people can get better, they can learn, but also it's not like it's very detrimental. We're just getting a feel for everything. I feel like that would have been a better approach because that is a mode that is necessary for competitive games. Now, if PvP is not your thing, there is another mode called Rift. This is more of a PvE feel. This is kind of like an adventure mode. You play against bots and you travel across the Rift. Now, one of the things with Rift mode is that after chapter 3, we stopped receiving cutscenes and the game stopped having story. It kind of just feels like every node you go to, there's a specific quote or there's a saying, but there's no real story there. I think having the story and having the cutscenes were a very good pull, a very good reason to play. You want to see the story evolve, but then it just got to the point where completing this for a specific phrase to the character, not to mention the increased difficulty. Should you increase your difficulty, you're really working towards Agent Smith. However, that is a reward that you'll see really far into the future. Although people that play PvE might not be competitive, I feel like they should still have a reason to play PvE. The only consistent reward that you get as of today are battle pass experience and then completing your challenges. You also get gems, but you get gems to then level up to play harder modes, to then get more gems to level up to play harder modes. This is just like PvP, you're kind of playing for no reason, and I can easily understand why people might find it boring. For me personally, I love the cutscenes and I love the story that came with each chapter. I was ready to log in and be like, oh, new chapter, let's go. But once chapter 4 and chapter 5 came, it didn't feel like that, especially because there was no story and there were no cutscenes. There's like a hint of story, don't get me wrong, a little bit, but it's not nearly as engrossing as the first 3 chapters. Now, I'm not saying I have a solution for everything, but I do feel that player first games might need to stop being so cautious because the more cautious you are does not really make a better product. I understand the server's having problems. I understand some of these characters are overloaded. I understand that we're trying to make patches and all this extra good stuff. But at the end of the day, the audience is going to be so constricted because the only people left playing the game are those who really love the game. And in my past experiences with games, that's not what you want. You don't want a small try-hard community that doesn't really want new players to come in and things like that. And any players that do come that are new are forced to play with really, really good try-hard players, which will obviously push them away. I personally really want MultiVersus to succeed, and I do understand that some gameplay issues need to be fixed, especially with some of these balance changes and things like that, but I also understand the game needs to remain fun while this happens. Unless you're a true MultiVersus try-hard love head, or you're a new player that just started, you might have already stopped playing the game by now. There's nothing to draw you in. If you're a competitive player, at the end of the day, there's no ranked. There's no reason to play. If you're a Rift player, at the end of the day, there's no reason to play. There's no more story, there's no more cutscenes. Really, you're just playing to do a harder difficulty, to then tear your hair out to do a harder difficulty, and you can't really complete some things because you need a friend. Some matches feel so hard you can't really play anyway. They hit you for like 50 HP and you do no damage, even if you have leveled up gems. It's a very try-hard experience for something that's supposed to be fun and relaxing. I also want to talk about characters. Since this release, fighter currency is something that we've always been struggling with. Should you have bought a character, you don't have any money to buy a new one. This means you're stuck with this character for an extended period of time. No matter how much fighter currency they trickle down to the players, you are gonna have to want to be interested in playing the game to then get your next character. There is not one competitive game that I've ever played where once I get all the characters, I don't want to play anymore. I don't really understand the point of this. Maybe because they already knew ranked wasn't gonna drop and they already knew Rift mode might get a little stale because of what they had planned. So the only thing that can consistently keep someone coming back is the completionist in them wanting to get all the characters. But I really feel like that was a step in the wrong direction. Now, I don't think the characters should be all unlocked. That's not something that most free competitive games do. They need a reason for you to play, but it shouldn't take so long to get them, especially if you buy a character and there's no refund system, or you buy a character and you really just aren't enjoying that character. If they don't really want to reward fighter currency per each game, I understand. But if we're gonna do the top dog challenge, I feel like that currency should be fighter currency. Getting perk currency, there's just too much perk currency, and you can't use that perk currency if you have no characters. So this kind of begs the question, why are we getting something we can't use? Just give us the fighter currency so then we can use them on more characters, and we'll unlock perk currency as we play the character. Again, this could be another reason why the game feels boring to some players. Why do I want to play a game where I'm stuck with a character that I don't want? But at the end of the day, I see both sides of the story. I understand the players who feel like the game isn't going in the right direction, and I also understand the players who feel like the game is getting a little bit boring and it's getting a little bit stale. My question for you is, what do you think? Which side of the spectrum are you on? Do you think the game's going in the right direction, or do you feel like the game is getting a little bit stale? We need ranked mode, we need the ability to get more characters, we need a better Rift mode to have the cutscenes back and a better story like it had in the first few chapters. Let me know in the comments down below. I love reading your comments. You guys know this. I love reading and I love responding. Until next time, you know what I always say. Think you guys are doing what? Poppin' often, will often.